Have you ever just looked around at the solid walls of your room, the chair you're sitting on, maybe even the screen you're looking at right now, and wondered, is any of this actually real? Welcome to today's Explainer. We're about to strip away every single assumption you have about your everyday existence. We are venturing into one of the absolute deepest, most mysterious debates in all of human history. We're going to explore the ultimate status of our universe. And honestly, by the time we wrap this up, the physical world around you might not feel quite as solid as it did a few seconds ago. Let's get into it.
So this brings us right to the central, totally mind-bending question we're tackling today. Kya hum Ishwar ke sapne ka hissa hain? Are we simply part of God's dream? Now I know it sounds like pure poetry, right? Or maybe a late-night dorm room thought experiment, but what if I told you that some of the absolute greatest philosophical minds, and as we'll see, potentially even modern quantum physicists, have grappled with evidence suggesting that our physical reality might just be an incredibly detailed illusion? To even begin to unpack a question like that, we have to start at the foundation. We have to talk about metaphysics, also known as ontology, or in Indian philosophy, Tattva Mimamsa. This is basically the branch of philosophy that tries to find the ultimate reality. Just picture this. Think back to early human history, maybe around 70,000 years ago when our cognitive abilities really started evolving. We're standing there, unarmed, vulnerable, in the wild, looking up at the stars, and we start asking the big ones. Where are we? How did all of this get here, and what exactly is my role in it? Well, metaphysics is the structured attempt to answer those exact questions.
Okay, let's dive into this. To make sense of the universe, philosophers kind of mathematically categorize ultimate existence. Generally speaking, this breaks down into three main paths. First, you've got pluralism, which argues there are many ultimate existences. Things like fire, water, atoms. Thinkers like Charvek or Karl Marx sat in this camp. Then there's dualism. This is the idea that there are exactly two ultimate existences, usually mind and matter. This was championed by Descartes and the Sankhya school. But then you have monism. This is the belief that there is literally only one ultimate existence. Legendary thinkers like Shankaracharya and Spinoza believed that absolutely everything, despite all the crazy diversity we see around us, boils down to just one single truth.
Now, the massive divide in this whole philosophical debate usually boils down to a showdown between two concepts: matter versus consciousness. Matter is physical, it's inert. Its defining characteristic is that it actually takes up space, right? It has volume, and you can perceive it with your five senses. On the flip side, we have consciousness. Think about your thoughts, your emotions, your sheer willpower. These things take up absolutely zero space. You can't put a ruler up to a thought, and you definitely can't put a feeling on a scale to weigh it. So here's the crucial sticking point, this seemingly impossible gap between the two. Think about it. If you believe the universe is entirely made of physical matter, you run into a massive, massive hurdle. How exactly does consciousness arise from an inert piece of iron or a block of wood or a rock? How do microscopic atoms that take up physical space somehow magically weave together to create a spaceless, weightless thought, or, say, a deep feeling of love? That is a remarkably difficult proposition for materialists to prove definitively.
And that brings us to the real heavyweight clash of the day: materialism versus idealism. Materialists, like the ancient Indian philosopher Charvak, argue that everything is matter. Charvak had this beautiful, vivid way of explaining it. He reasoned that consciousness emerges from matter just like intoxication emerges from fermenting jaggery. The jaggery itself isn't intoxicated, but the combination creates it. Makes sense, right? But then, idealists, like Hegel or Shankaracharya, completely flip the script. They argue that consciousness is the foundation of everything, and physical matter, well, that's either just a manifestation of thought or a flat-out illusion.
You can really see the struggle to reconcile these two sides when you look at René Descartes. You probably know his famous realization, "I think, therefore I am." Descartes used this extreme method of doubt. He questioned if anything physical was actually real. The only thing he absolutely could not doubt was the fact that he was thinking. So therefore, his conscious soul had to exist. But here's the catch. He agonizingly failed to figure out how this non-physical soul actually interacted with his physical body. He got kind of desperate and suggested they linked up in the brain's pineal gland. But wait, if the gland is physical, how does a spaceless thought physically push it? It's a total paradox, and the mystery remained.
Now, let's see how this builds into the truly fascinating view of idealism. Thinkers like Hegel and Berkeley use this brilliant analogy to explain it. Think about the last time you dreamt. In your dream, you see your friends, they look totally physical. You might even eat physical food, like a perfectly crispy, delicious samosa. While you're in the dream, everything feels heavy, it feels real, and it feels completely physical. But the exact moment you wake up,
You realize that the physical samosa, your friends, the room you were in, it was all pure consciousness. It literally took up zero actual physical space. Which brings us to the absolute staggering conclusion of idealism. If our own minds can create a fully physical feeling reality inside a dream that is made entirely of thought, then what are we? Hegel and other idealists pose a wild idea, that our physical universe might simply be thoughts happening inside a higher consciousness's dream. You, me, the device you're watching this on right now, we might all just be conscious elements of God's imagination. We feel totally physical to each other, exactly like dream characters feel physical to one another. Mind-blowing, right?
Science and philosophy, the quantum secret. Now hold on to that philosophical thought because we are completely shifting gears here. You might be sitting there thinking this is just some ancient philosophical musings, but in the 20th century, modern science violently kicked the door open on this exact debate. Let's look at what they actually found. As modern physics evolved, legendary scientists like Albert Einstein firmly believed in an objective, totally predictable material reality. To him, everything had a fixed cause and effect. So when quantum mechanics came along and started suggesting that subatomic particles behaved completely unpredictably, Einstein flat out rejected it. He famously declared, "God does not play dice with the universe." He was convinced there was an objective physical reality out there that just did its thing, regardless of whether we were looking at it or not.
But, as we know, science loves to test assumptions. Enter the now legendary double-slit experiment. When scientists fired light through two tiny slits, unobserved light behaved just like a wave, creating this ripple-like interference pattern on the wall. But here is the absolute jaw-dropping revelation. When scientists simply placed a measuring device there to observe which slit the light went through, its physical nature completely changed. It instantly stopped being a wave and started behaving like a solid particle.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the profound implication of the observer effect. Science literally proved that physical matter, light in this specific case, is fundamentally altered by the mere act of conscious observation. Think about that for a second. As long as nobody is looking, reality is just this hazy wave of probabilities. But the exact second consciousness steps in to observe it, reality snaps into physical, solid matter. Honestly, it raises the hair on your arms just thinking about it, doesn't it?
And hey, if you think this is just some outdated or fringe science experiment, consider this fact. In 2022, 3 brilliant scientists won the Nobel Prize in Physics for their work on quantum mechanics. They essentially proved that Einstein's doubts were completely misplaced. Science in the absolute highest order is now confirming that the universe, at its most fundamental subatomic level, just does not behave like predictable, objective, inert matter.
That Nobel Prize was specifically tied to a mind-bending concept called quantum entanglement. And guys, this is where things get truly wild. Two subatomic particles can become entangled, which means if you change the state of one particle here on Earth, its partner on the Sun, or literally millions of light years away in a totally different galaxy, changes instantly. And I don't mean in a fraction of a second, I mean in 0 seconds. It completely defies the speed of light, it absolutely destroys our traditional theories of cause and effect, it means everything in the universe is deeply, mysteriously, and instantly connected. So we really have to ask the question that's currently echoing through the halls of both science and philosophy. Does quantum physics actually prove Advaita Vedanta? The scientific observer effect we just talked about eerily mirrors Shankaracharya's ancient concept of Sakshi Chaitanya. That's the idea that Brahman, the ultimate reality, is the pure observer, and the physical world only materializes and changes through mere observation. It's crazy, but modern physics is starting to sound remarkably like ancient spiritual idealism.
But, okay, before we go ahead and declare the mystery of the universe perfectly solved, we really need to ground ourselves with the wisdom of the great philosopher Immanuel Kant. Kant realized something crucial. Human beings are equipped with very limited tools. We only have our 5 basic senses. Because of that, we can only ever know the phenomenon, meaning how things appear to us. But we can never truly grasp the Noumenon, which is the actual ultimate reality exactly as it is. We might simply lack the cosmic senses required to zoom out and see the full picture.
We've journeyed all the way from ancient Indian philosophy to Descartes' deepest doubts, right into the Nobel Prize-winning quantum physics of today. The boundaries between solid physical matter and pure thought, they are thinner now than they have ever been. So I want to leave you with this one final thought to ponder tonight. If physical reality fundamentally transforms simply because a conscious mind is looking at it, is the universe around us actually made of solid matter? Or are we, indeed, just a conscious observation playing out inside the ultimate dream? Think about that, and keep questioning absolutely everything you see.